Good evening, everyone. It is May the 22nd, 2020. We are in perfect alignment with the Pleiades today. And if you did not catch it earlier, we did an activation on this channel that you will be able to catch a replay of. And it is good to see you all here tonight. Willow, Charlotte, Patricia, Kala. Willow, I don't know if I said that one, but you're worth saying twice. That's for sure. So I appreciate you all being here tonight. Tonight we have a wonderful guest on the show. His name is Christian Bradley West. He goes on Instagram as the Country Clairvoyant, and he's well known there for posting a lot of funny content, but he is also an intuitive healer, an intuitive reader, and a fairly awakened individual himself. And so we are looking forward to having him here tonight. He is not here yet. Aaron is also not here yet. I'm going to adjust my camera though, so that when Aaron does get here, he will be in the frame. Probably a good idea to do that. Alright. Alright, so, like I said tonight, Christian Bradley West on here. I am actually going to check and make sure that he's not having any troubles connecting real fast. And, well, he mentioned me in a story 4 minutes ago, so I suspect he will be along soon. I'd like to take this moment to thank our community for all the support that you do show. Hello, Sam. It is good to see you tonight as well. Thank you guys very much for always being here, always supporting us, whatever you do to share it or get the word out, or really just engaging with yourselves at all to try and learn more. We really do appreciate that. And we really do appreciate all the help that you have given to our community. This month we did feed 100 plus families in the Amazon jungle of the Shipibo tribe, one of the last 7 indigenous tribes, and the original developers of many plant medicines, and they still carry on that tradition today. And they're very helpful people to the world, and it's very much so been our pleasure to be able to help them out. I've been down there and worked with this tribe personally, and our contact on the ground is somebody that I have worked with personally, and he is a really good guy, really great healer, really great singer. We're really happy to have him as part of our extended community as well, and they very much so consider us part of their extended community. Kevin, good to see you tonight. Hope you're doing very well. Like I said, we will have Aaron here in a moment. We do have Christian, the Country Clairvoyant, now in here. We are going to go ahead and bring him into the stream at the same time that Aaron shows up. It's miraculous coherence.
I don't have audio yet, but I shortly will. But I'm here. Hi, Christian.
We have a scuffed audio set up right now, so he has to dial in from another phone because I don't have a headphone splitter.
But tomorrow, it'll be even cooler.
How are you doing tonight, Christian?
Good. It took me a second. I had to, my iPhone wasn't updated, so it said I'd only have video on audio, so you guys couldn't have seen me. I was like, oh no, that's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
I had to fix something, so here we are. So it's okay. Well, it didn't take that long.
Good job knocking out the tech support so quickly.
Yeah, it takes a minute, but I tend to be pretty savvy with that. At least I think so.
We were savvy enough to get here, so it was good enough for tonight, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Christian is perhaps most well known for making his memes, such as this one right here, titled "When You're Looking at the Light at the End of the Tunnel and Wondering If It's a Way out or the headlight of another trauma train about to hit you." This is definitely something I can resonate with big time. Oftentimes the end, or what seems like the end, is actually the beginning of just something new. What was kind of like did you have an inspiration in your life behind making this specific one?
So this one was a little updated one I did last year. I think it was just, there's just the last, I don't know, handful of years. I was going to say 2 years, but it's probably been longer than that. It just feels like it's been one thing after another. So it's like you think like you're done with something, and then you're not. And you're like, wait, I thought I was done with that. And then so you know, it just sometimes feels like this, and not just that, I've been dealing with my own trauma, and it's like, okay, I thought I dealt with that pattern, I thought I dealt with that wound, and then it's like, oh no, there it is again. Oh hey. So
sure.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like these continue to pop up inside of us?
You know, because based on so my degree's in exercise science, and I had to take motor learning, which, you know, everything builds on each other, right? That we learn in this life. So one thing that I learned was repetition is how we build that motor learning, like learning to walk, all that stuff. It's the same with our brains. We're literally rewiring our brains, so we require repetition. So it's like we're going down one path, we started a new road, and then sometimes we veer off onto that old path, and then it's like, oh wait, no, I don't want to be there anymore. I want to be over here now. So it's about becoming conscious of what those patterns are, and creating that new road, and continuing to build it. So I think sometimes it's just those grooves we just fall back into. It's simple. But
is there a specific tool that you like to use in your life for getting out of those grooves, or perhaps even just for identifying those grooves?
Gosh, that's a so I'll tell you, the identifying of it sometimes is more difficult than the practice of moving out, because sometimes it's so unconscious, I don't even realize. So sometimes recently I've been watching The Complainer in my head, or the woulda, shoulda, coulda voice, and I don't even realize I'm doing it. Like I have to pause and go throughout the day and go, wait a minute, that was not, like, that didn't go to plan, or I didn't, and then I'm complaining about it internally. So one thing, pausing a lot. The more that you become conscious of those patterns, those voices, the pausing, and then essentially sometimes breathing, especially if I'm already on an emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? If you're already on that emotional momentum of that feeling, what I do is I normally go, okay, let's breathe through this. Let's pause. Because oftentimes it feels like a trigger, even if it's something small. I find myself, I punish myself over the stupidest stuff. And I'm like,
like what?
Like, oh God, it's really, I was diagnosed with OCD when I was younger, and it went away for a while, and it's come back. So it's like if something even like falls off the bed, I'll be like, why did that have to happen? Or now I have to wipe it down, or, or like, I don't know. It can be anything like that.
Okay, slight tangent, but if you,
tangents
sorry,
are good.
Okay, sorry, audio, you're okay. Have you thought, like the OCD thing, and sometimes we think, okay, I need to stop this habit. It is destructive, or it gives me anxiety, or maybe it's not beneficial, and that's fine. But different avenues to a same goal, maybe, or an emotional feeling state where there's coherence, even with this OCD dynamic or disposition.
Yeah.
So I've thought of, like, okay, like there's times I was with Zach and Jen on the phone after hours, and I remember I got out of the van for something, and I started to walk around the van. And if I'm going to do it once, I'm going to do it 3 times, right? Tesla, 369. And then I'm like, if I'm going to go 3 times, that's masculine, that's one direction, that's left, that's right, whatever. So, like, I'm going to go the other hand 3 times. And I did it on the phone. It made me feel good. Yeah, it's kind of OCD, but in the moment, like, it was really enjoyable to me. I had a lot of fun doing it. I feel like there's esoteric and metaphysical realities to the fact of creating vortexes and energy. And, like, they were having a blast. They thought it was hilarious. Every time I came around the van, I'd acknowledge that I was on Bluetooth the whole time so we could talk. But then I'd stop, and then I'd just, like, point at him.
Every time he got past his truck door,
Zach's, like, falling off his chair laughing. Right? It's like, in one sense, like, giving into the OCD, but in a way that made it fun and enjoyable and, like, a really beautiful, cool, just moments, but it was a spontaneous moment.
Well, I love that you say that, because sometimes I call my little rituals or things like that, I call them rituals, or I call them my spells, because sometimes I feel like that, people are like, why are you doing that? And I'll go, because it's my spell. It's my little ritual. So there you go. So I did words, because that's what they call it, spelling yesterday. So, I feel like that, like, before I go to bed, I always clear the house. I take a spray, like an energy clearing spray, and I spray the house, and so I love that you mentioned that, because sometimes it can very much so become the ritual. And if we turn it into a ritual, it can go one of 2 ways. Either we continue to feel like we need it, or we get to a point where it's like a talisman. You guys heard of like crystals breaking or a wand breaking or something?
Totally.
Or even in Buddhism, the prayer beads, once they're broken, that prayer, they're essentially, that's your level up, right? Like you're done with it. You can move on to the next thing.
You're done with that cycle, and now you can spiral.
Exactly, right? So so sometimes I feel like, and I feel like that's what happened to me years ago when all this stuff came back on me. I was like, oh crap, I'm spiraling here. Like I'm at another level, and it's time to really dig in again
Cool.
to this. And I thought I was done. So yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, so I
Can
like
I
that
ask
you mentioned that.
Christina? Can I ask you a
Yeah.
question real quick?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, the echo in my ear like stops the stutter. Have you heard that there's a technology or something like you can put a delay?
Yeah, yeah.
There's apps now that do it. They put a delay from your talk to your ears, and it like stops you from talking because the frequency
Yeah.
dissonance.
Yeah.
It's funny. I feel like that every time I start to. Yep. Hear myself in here. It'll be fixed tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. And what means well, enjoy these nuances. Okay, so about your name. So the country clairvoyant. Have you described the story behind that, or why? What
Oh
was that mean to
gosh.
you?
Okay, so it's a really interesting story. I'm glad you asked this. Not everyone does. So, okay, I'll just start. Like, I started another account on Instagram and was like doing it, and like I don't know, like after 8 months or something, I had like 1,000 followers, and I was just like, okay, that's fine. I was proud of it. I had posted almost every day, but it hadn't really gone anywhere. And I don't know, maybe 5 months into it or so, something was like, do the country clairvoyant and make spiritual memes, and I was like, oh, that's a distraction. Like whatever. Like I was like, oh, whatever. And then so that was like in June. And then in October, I woke up from a dream. It was like a past life dream. And I was going to Virginia with a friend, and I was Native American in it. It was odd. And then that week, I actually found out through 23andMe that I have Native American lineage. And I grew up on the Powhatan Nation's property in Virginia. I was like 2 miles down from Pocahontas State Park, and a lot of stuff happened on that property when I was younger. So a friend of mine said, do a soul retrieval. It sounds like some part of you wants to come back to you. And he had been telling me forever that side of my ancestry had wanted to come through. Well, they came through really strongly. I did the soul retrieval, and driving back to Atlanta, where I live now, well, actually, I'm north of there now, but at the time, the voices in my head, what do you want to call them, ancestors, guides, whatever, were like, you have to start country clairvoyant. And I did, and within the first month, I almost had 4,000 followers.
Wow, cool, man.
So I was like, and if I wouldn't have started that and done my website, I don't know how I would be making a living right now. I mean, I have no idea what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this. It's really insane how, about 2.5 years ago, I had to start it. And I just would have never guessed of what it would, and we're here today because of it.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Maybe one you've never been asked before. Okay, Zach and I have been having conversations too about the dynamic of having a purpose, a calling, a specific calling, right? And the story you're telling, to me, is a beautiful story of you reconnecting with your ancestors, and it's starting something in this life that you enjoy doing that connects with your history, your lineage, your soul, your purpose in a sense. But I guess the question is, do you feel like now that is your life purpose to do this in this way, or do you feel like it's a beautiful experience where you're honoring your ancestors because of the idea that it gave you and helped you birth, but do you know what I'm trying to ask, kind of?
Yeah, so one of the things I say is we have to be everywhere we've been to be where we are. So each iteration I've gone through, from being a personal trainer to being a teacher to being a designer to being a fine artist, and many iterations within that, I find it's building. But I find right now what I seem to have is information for people. So right now, this is how it's getting out. I've been writing books. The first one didn't go anywhere. I thought that Tor was going to purchase it. I worked with an editor there for a year. And then 2 years ago, it was very devastating for me. But again, another spiral up, right? They ultimately rejected it. And after really doing a lot of work with one of the editors there. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I do? Well, I had already other books in mind, so I actually rewrote that one. It was a science fiction, and then I've started others. So I feel like that eventually what will happen is that the whatever I'm working on as far as books are concerned, it'll go there. But I've been practicing with people, because if I didn't have the people that I've been working on, and this has been practice of how to refine the message and be very direct and clear with it, instead, because I don't want to just be one of those people that just pummels people with a lot of information. I want to be very succinct.
One of the things you said different iterations of yourself, because I feel like I've thought of myself in that terminology too. So it's like, what is my purpose? So like, I don't know, the current iteration of me, my ego, my life incarnation, Aaron Michael Kessler is like, I don't know, it's kind of this thing. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing, right? But that's an iteration. There'll be another iteration that kind of comes out of some kind of cocoon, metamorphosis shell over a little bit of time. And so it's always changing and growing, which is cool, man. That's life to me.
Well, and something that I don't know what age you are, but I feel like if you're under the age of 40, you understand very well, because the especially the Pluto and Libra generation coming through in the late 70s in astrology, like we don't follow the same path. We haven't had one job or even two jobs.
Wait, hold on. We just made we statements, and like let's clarify just so I know too the dynamic here. So I'm 34. How old are you, and what are the groups we're talking about?
So I'm 41.
Okay.
I was born in 78.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, no, not at all.
If you would have said 28, I would have been like, oh, okay.
That's about what I normally get. So I'm an ex-lineal. And I'll tell you, Eckhart Tolle says in The Power of Now, he says, be present and you will stop aging. And I can say that's probably true.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
It's
One day
probably, right? Yeah. So you know what I've experienced and what I've witnessed, and I've given artist talks before with my art, and I've been through many iterations from there. I started out as photographer. I've done painting, I've done sculpture, multidisciplinary work, and I gave one artist talk once, and I had younger people coming up to me, like late 20s, and saying thank you, because they said you've gone through all these different iterations, all these different layers to your work, and yet it's still you, which one of my collectors said. It was actually at his house, and she said. One of them specifically, she said, I thought I had to be one thing, and you're showing me that I can be, I can explore these different dimensions, which totally. I feel like have always been there for humans, but we've been conditioned to go, you have to fit in this one box, now do it. And we're just not going to do it anymore. We refuse, most of us. We're just not going to live there. So, So it's important for us to continue to explore these layers, because to me, it's accelerating consciousness on the planet.
So, and you said, so layers and multidisciplinary studies or work, right? Because it's funny how you have your own like ways of like the things you've kind of mastered certain skill sets. Now, I don't know if you've gotten degrees and really pursued them. Obviously, you've been on planet Earth a few more years than I have, but like a lot of my own, like if you will, self-mastery and different skill sets during different dynamics of my life of exploring those multidisciplinary connections for... Oh, can you hear the dog in the background?
Yeah.
Because it'd be my first time hearing it on this side of the mic, and this side of reality.
I love that.
Okay,
that,
so
anyway,
I was exploring that through like learning woodworking and learning microelectronics and soldering and like tons of stuff. I taught myself like my own mastery of those things and doing all this construction and the work I was doing and like expanding all that over. And so you've had all your own. Anyway, it's just interesting layers. So iterations, multiple disciplinary mindset, or an openness to that reality, leading to some kind of continued novelty in our lives, or iterations and multiple purpose.
My whole philosophy is whatever we're doing this moment is the purpose. And that translates to maybe we look back in time and go, okay, there was a bigger purpose, right? And even for certain periods of time in our life. But I also think that in this, because things are so accelerated right now, we can live multiple lifetimes in one lifetime, because we have access to so much information that we didn't before. So it's accelerated. So we go through multiple relationships. We go through multiple, incarnations, exploring those different levels of our artistry, of whatever, we're learning. So, and this is, I don't have any degrees. Though, no, I have one, in exercise science. It's the only one that I hold. I did a Reiki exercise science. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, so I went to school for exercise science. So I hold that degree. But this is what I say. This is something that actually makes me nervous sometimes doing this work. But I've realized that the one thing that I feel like that we all can take away from our life is the experience. So I've lived everything I've learned. So even the books I've read, all that stuff, I've experienced it on a very conscious level. By the way, for those that know astrology, my North Node is in Virgo, and I have a Saturn in Virgo next to it. So I have to perfect everything. Like I can't half-ass anything.
Perfect is good enough. My mom raised me with that mantra.
Perfect is good enough. And do you guys know what the root of the word perfect means?
No.
It means finished. It means complete. And we are perfect here and now. We are as complete as we need to be right now.
Did you say we are as perfect as we are present?
Absolutely. That is
just beautiful. So we can smash it in today.
Put it in a meme.
Christian just brought us
with that. Perfect as we are present. Put it in a meme. Put it in a meme.
That's beautiful. Yes.
Christian provided us with our word of the day today. It was perfect, and it actually means finished. And that's the definition that we're going with. That is your definition. I like that one because I've had a running theme in my life. That's those iterations that you talk about. That's really like, when is enough enough, right?
Yes.
Like you keep on chasing after something more, but you have to ask yourself that question: like, if I'm not happy today, then am I ever going to be happy? Because technically, every day that you live in is today.
Well, and it's not even about the day; it's about the moment. You know, because we can look back and see the series of moments throughout the day, but this is where we are now. And this right now is whole and complete. We are as perfect as we will ever get now. So yes, present is perfect and perfect is present. So there is nothing that we need to do. And that goes back to that desire, you know, that have to, the grasping, the needing, that ever present, which just comes from our mind because it's trying to keep us alive. But when we have
in the Christian dynamic, so like there's a paradigm when you understand that you are in Christ and Christ is in you now. That you are complete now. It's finished now. I mean, that's the same terminology too. Christ said on the cross, it is finished, it is perfect, it is complete. That means you are perfect, you are finished, you are complete. So that means you don't cling on to the traumas of the past. Doesn't mean you dissociate from them or pretend they don't exist. I mean, you have to find ways to move that energy through or address them or that stuff, right? But ultimately, that's not who you are. The more present you are now, because you are perfect and complete every moment you are present, then that's it.
Yes.
Living from that space or something like that.
Yes, we are whole and complete now. And that doesn't mean we're here to explore, right? We're here to be entertained. We're here to actually enjoy. So that's one of my favorite.
Dude, that's so really funny.
Is one of my
well done. Ones. It should have been like rose quartz, though.
Well, you know, I thought about changing it to more quartzy, but I was like, no, we'll just leave it and let people think.
Make it more realistic. What's affordable?
Yeah, we'll just let people think what they want to think. But, you know, I really like the idea that we're not here to suffer. Suffering something that arises in the mind, and we're here to explore. And so, yeah, it's okay to want to experience things. It's just when we get attached to it is when we feel the imperfection, because we think we need something in order to be whole, and we don't. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. But it's a lesson. It's a practice in and of itself.
Some nights I cuddle with myself better than others.
Sure.
It's the same. All of us are there. So
how do you feel that like finding our authentic self or being our authentic self plays into this purpose? Because like in a certain way, like your purpose, maybe someone looks at that and says, "That's me finding my authentic self. It's my true purpose." But with what we've said, maybe that's not really it. So what is the authentic self to you? How are we trying to find it? Why are we trying to find it?
So here's the deal. If we put the authentic self in the future, then we go, oh, future me is going to be better. Future me is going to be there. There's an authentic self somewhere. We're postponing where we are now, and we're essentially creating a perception that we need to be saved. because the thought is,
Mhm.
oh, if I get enlightened, if I'm my authentic self, whatever the story is, then my life will be better. Then I will be saved. I will have kept my eyes on the prize, and eventually I will get there. I'll get to heaven if I'm just a good boy or a good girl. If I just do all the right things, I'll get there. And so it's really, this is where presence is so powerful and important, is to recognize that here and now, to your point, Zach, when is enough enough? And that is, now is enough. Now that doesn't, if you're hungry, go get food. If you need water, go get water. If you need to fulfill your physical needs, then go do that. It's not always easy. I'm not saying that this is easy, but what I'm saying is that when we're constantly grasping for something, whether it's the authentic self or not, and even when we quote unquote find that authentic self, it's going to be in the present moment. It's not going to be in the future. So
I've definitely found what felt like my authentic self in some moments and been like, "This is you? Why are you like this?" You know, like you gotta do something about this music. This is you authentically right now. Yikes!
Well, and that's where consciousness comes in. That's to go, hey, and really what it comes down to is, am I living out of my conditioning or my domestication, or which is so if we want to complete the answer to your question from my perspective, is that if we are living out of our conditioning, we are not living authentically. If we are living out of some set of expectations, judgments, and principles that obligate us to live a certain way, then we're not being authentic. So when we really get very honest with ourselves and telling ourselves the truth about where we are in the moment, our authentic self is there. It is in the consciousness of the witness that we see ourselves doing the things that, oh, I want to change this now. This isn't working anymore. So your authentic self is coming through there, because you're recognizing your conditioning. You're recognizing what's not working, or what the pattern is, or whatever. So yeah, so it's not about finding the authentic self. It's about being the authentic self.
Sure, just allowing yourself to be who you really are in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that is going to look really messy and really uncomfortable, and depending on where you are in the process, and where you are in the spiral, right? And then other times it's going to be calm and peaceful, and so there's the storm sometimes where everything seems messy and it's out of whack, and then there are times where it's not. And but I want to caution people to be conscious of the judgment, because if you're judging the storm, then you're not being authentic, because some part of your conditioning has come in and gone, oh my God, this is bad. So it's real. And that's how speaking of Christianity, that's how I interpret Christ on the water. Is Christ was not walking on water. What he was is he was recognizing the fear and all the emotions, because water and storms can very much so be the emotion. He was recognizing it, and he was not impacted by it. He was not allowing it to affect him, and he wanted
kind of
to
residing
teach the
above
disciples
the
how to do it.
emotions.
Exactly. And going, hey, that's not who you are. You are not that fear. You are not the shame. You're not the grief that you're feeling.
Yeah,
So
kind of like you're not a drowning victim. You can rise above it.
Well, in every step,
Exactly.
even bring coherence with the water, bring his stillness to even if the chaos is all around him. Because it says in the story, when Peter got out and walked on the water, and when he kept his eyes on Christ, or the Christ in himself, not on the
Exactly.
waves, not on the emotions, not the distractions, that he
No.
also walked on water. But the moment he began to focus on the waves,
Yes.
they began to fear overtook him, and he
Yes.
began to sink. So like everywhere
Yes.
Christ stepped, like even on a molecular level, or just for imagery, metaphorical sake, like the
Yeah.
molecules or the atoms or whatever that come into some kind of electromagnetic quantum or whatever coherence with the water. So
Yes.
his stillness, or his intention for being on the water and being on top of it and being still, brought a sovereignty realm of his reality that displaced, even in the midst of the emotions, he was able to be present.
Exactly. And that's how I believe he healed as well, is that he could displace all of those things and bring calmness and peace into things. But again, as he taught his disciples and as he said to other people, you have to have faith, because if you do not have faith, then and if you're not present and you're not there, then you'll get taken
Totally.
over. You'll get taken over. So, and I feel like that metaphor, that parable, or that experience has been misinterpreted for many, many generations. This is the first time I've ever got to talk about it with someone, actually. So, yay.
Cool. Yeah.
Do you think that our intuition helps us overcome that, like, kind of function of being misled out of our center?
Oh, absolutely. But I feel like the intuition is the center. I feel like for me, intuition is the heart. I will tell you, I will be walking in the grocery store and feel like I forgot something. And I will tap my heart or put my hand here and go, what am I forgetting? And it will come. Like
cool.
that. But I also have a lot of practice.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it wasn't that easy. Things did not come so quickly. So when I'm in a reading, I always start off here, and if someone asks me a question, or I'm having a moment where I don't know the answer to something that they've asked, I'll tap here and it will come. So yeah, I feel like, because this is full of fake news, it's full of our conditioning, it's full of our stuff, So when we drop into our body, like a lot of spiritual practices talk about, when we drop into that, we're essentially dropping into the heart center. We're embracing that, and this can't get in the way. And so even though we have our third eye, what I feel like happens here is that actually this is more of the void, and the third eye is how we connect to it, to this reality. It's like bringing it through, and we
Like
see
makes
it,
a picture out of it.
Exactly. So
Yes.
a lot of people get confused and say, oh, it's the third eye intuition. I'm like, no, it's here, but this is communicating with it.
Yeah, that like turns it into some kind of functional information that you could maybe provide to someone else or make a story out of, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So it helps us to interpret it.
So I got a story that's come up, and
Please.
it's hard because I can't actually hear if there's engagement here, but okay, I'll try to pay attention. That's what I'll have to do, Aaron. Keep my contact, Aaron, because I usually go all over the place sometimes with stories. Okay, so about a year ago, I'm realizing I think this is actually the very first video I uploaded on my YouTube channel. This channel, actually, but it was kind of a vlog thing until Zach and I started this. Now it's like a production, man. It just turned overnight because we did the nightly podcast, and it's great. We have multiple, like Jen's got her show, and a bunch of other people. So the whole thing. Anyhow, but I remember talking about the embody part, and so the journey I'd been on, and at that time I was out of my marriage and I was on my own, but I was still figuring out what I wanted, though, and I was about to do some psychedelic. I think I was going to go to Barbados and do San Pedro, and then over the next year did a lot of psychedelics, but knowing I was going into that season, one of the biggest intentions or desires I had was to take all this understanding, because I feel like I've always been connected to my heart, then I've connected all this higher level understanding and all this, and ways to articulate all within myself and my own internal dynamic and expression, but that I wasn't able to fully bring it into my full vessel or whatever. There was blockages, traumas, or just things that weren't able to bring it in. So that was one of the main focuses of bringing it in. And then also, like you're talking about tapping your heart, so I mean, obviously there's probably meridians and things there. Your heart is literally there, right? I mean, I can feel even the bump there. It feels, even makes my heart feel warm, which is cool. You know. But you're also creating that neurological association, because like you said, it took time, because you chose, I'm going to use this modality to help me find a centered yes or no or balanced answer, balanced remembrance. Exactly. So it's really cool that you built that in yourself, and actually that feels really cool. So
right. But you've witnessed it yourself, so so and as you begin to practice it, I have a lot of the people I work with to practice it, the clients and so forth, because humanity's been up here for way too long, and actually been here, the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the fight or flight. This is where we've been. We're not even up here yet, right? We're moving. This is what I feel like ascension is that we're coming out of the fear center and we're moving here.
Literally explained it exactly like that on numerous occasions.
Well, there you go. So, confirmation. So when people talk about ascension or moving into the higher centers, this is the frontal lobes. But the frontal lobes, of course, compassion, bigger picture, seeing the connectivity, and then it can recognize the connectivity of all of our organs and our body, and the neurons that not just live in our heart but live in all of our body.
Totally.
It's always communicating. So this part just says, oh, it's one thing, and this is the thing that has authority over us. But everywhere else it's no, it's a community. We are a walking community.
I think that's why oftentimes in kind of spirituality, is a new age spirituality, people are so interested in their third eye opening right away. I think it's basically the reverse engineering doorway of the fact that that's what makes your experience, so you walk back through that to understand the rest of it.
And yeah, you can definitely do that. Many paths, one truth. So if that works, then
I'm just saying I think it's the default because you know
It
you
is.
got like
You're
it's
right.
what you
Community.
see, so you work on it, and then you get past it, and you're like, wait, I see this other thing. Wait, I see this other thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said earlier that you had a lot of practice with your intuition. What have you done to practice your intuition? Is it just using it a lot, or is there specific things that you've done that you feel worked better to train it?
So I'm gonna say my art has trained it. My writing. I just would, when you're younger and you start to do drawing or you're writing, what you do, by the way, this meme has mediation in it instead of meditation, but I'm like kind of when you're meditating, you're mediating with yourself. So I just left it. I didn't let my OCD get in the way.
Oh, totally. Yeah, right on.
I
That's
literally
funny how that
say
works.
meditation is mediation.
I know, right?
all the time.
So, but I have to say that really bugged me for a minute, and I was like, no, I'm not going to let it bug me. It was one of my lessons. I didn't let it.
Yeah.
I didn't let my. That was one of the things I beat myself up over, and I was like, no, we're not going there. So I had to. I chose it to be a spiritual practice for myself because I was like, maybe
totally.
I did spell it right. But anyway, going back to your question, when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing. Like little things. It was like I drove to work a certain way and I was like, oh, I knew I should have gone that way, or whatever the story is. Like little things like that, or I shouldn't have eaten that because it made me feel weird and something said not to, but I didn't listen because I wasn't listening to it, or I shouldn't have gone here or done this or done that because it turned out to be a certain way, and I was like,
So it's kind of seeing it in hindsight.
Exactly. So I started out with me seeing a lot of things in hindsight. I also, as a child, just knew stuff. My mom would ask me questions and I would answer her, and she said I was always right. I didn't know I was always right, but she said I was. So I guess I also, for again, more astrology people, I have Pisces on my midheaven, which Neptune is conjunct right now. So it's just like when it conjuncted it years ago, like everything exploded in me as well. And then I've got Cancer on the ascendant, and then I have a Venus in Scorpio in the 5th house. So I have all that water just like bringing it in. So it was very innate to me as a child. And as I've gotten older, cards help me, kind of connecting the archetype of Tarot, and I use a fairy deck illustrated by Brian Froud, who did the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, which I love.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite artists. I've loved him. So I got that when I was, I wasn't 20, I was 19. So I've been reading with that deck. I'm 41 now, so I've been reading with that deck for years.
Is it the same one that you bought, or have you had to buy it several times? Wow.
It's
Cool.
the same one. So
I feel like in certain ways with card readings, like that in and of itself like makes them stronger. Like if you've had the
I
deck
agree.
for like the longest
sure.
time,
Come
you
on.
tune in with it all the
I
time.
agree. So I'll say something funny about that. So I didn't have a tarot deck for years and years and years, and I bought one that I was like by Usi, these great artists, and I found them and I was like, I loved it. It was very medieval, and I was like, oh, I can use this. Well, I could not connect with it, even though I adored the artwork, loved it, loved the people that created it. I couldn't connect with it. Well, so here's what's funny. I ended up buying the tarot deck that my godmother, who taught me tarot, used all the time, and I can read with that one without any issue. It's insane.
Yeah.
I don't know why but that was the one that I grew up on. That was the one that I was used to seeing all the time.
For
and it's
sure.
just the regular Rider Waite, I think is how you
Rider
say it. I
Waite
always
or
say
something
it.
like that.
I always want to say it different, but and immediately I was like, oh shit, these are like her cards. I can totally clarify immediately, So you're right. So yeah, using the cards helped. Just listening. The minute that I started doing heart meditations years ago, I don't know where I learned it. Greg Braden talks a lot about it, and started to learn at Heart Math Institute. So I had a friend that was really interested. Yeah, so a friend of mine was really into that years ago, which is funny because we met through an art thing, and I started talking one night, and he said, "You sound like you've read Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements," and I said, "Oh, he's one of my favorites." favorite. He's like, I go on retreats with him regularly, and I was like, holy shit! Like, so we became friends. So he's really big into the HeartMath stuff. So once I started tuning into the heart coherence information, it started to get a lot. Well, it just got big by itself. Like I said, without me doing anything, I didn't know. Dead people started showing up, which they always were, but in a different way. I had to make a lot of agreements about that. I was like, no, we don't. Unless I'm reading someone, you cannot wake me up in the middle of the night and I have no idea who you are. Like, don't tell me to go find Sharon because I don't know who Sharon is. So I was like, go find her. Yeah. You and then get a reading with me if we need to do this. But which I don't do mediumship very much. It's a lot of work. It wears you out very quickly, I find. But yeah, so I just it's just been constant, just a lot of practice, guys. It's just, and people, I stress that word in my practice with people, because a lot of people out there, and you guys, I'm sure, have experienced it within yourself and other people. I've experienced it in myself. We get impatient and we're like, when is it going to be here? Again, like that thing that we think we're supposed to have spiritually. And then it's like, no, this is the thing. Like, here and now is the thing. Being the witness is the thing.
Kind of a random question. Do you feel that intuition and clairvoyance are the same thing?
I think they're related. So, a clairvoyance is just a knowing, which I didn't call myself the claircognizant or the audient or anything like that, because country clairvoyant sounded a lot better, right? Not the country clairaudient. So I just picked, that's what came through. So I was like, okay, let's do that. But yeah, I absolutely. I think it all points to intuition in some fashion, and just a knowing, as I say, without knowing, because you might not have physical evidence of it. And guys, this has saved me a lot in my creative life. It's, again, my artistry, my writing, especially when I go to edit. If I just feel weird about something, I'll go, it has to go. I'm not keeping it. A character, a name, something, I'm like, okay, this has to go. And I used to not trust it and try and force it. And I'm like, no, this has to go now. So I think it's a knowing without knowing. And then inevitably things kind of come together. And again, in hindsight, you go, oh, that's why I did that. Oh, okay.
So it's more, you're also the dynamic of acting on, once you have that knowing, acting immediately, so almost simultaneously.
Yeah, so you start to, what I found, you start to get to the point, you guys I'm sure have experienced this, where you stop second guessing it and you just go, okay, I'm gonna do this now. Like, I'm just gonna go. And that works with readings, because like, if you show me green panties with a hummingbird on it, and if that's what I get in the reading, I'm going to mention it. If that comes through, and let me tell you, if something needs to come through, it will come through, then I'm going to mention the green panties with a hummingbird on it. Even though I feel insane going, okay, I've got to mention it to you.
That's one of the hardest parts about intuition, right? Is that sometimes it just comes up with the wackiest shit, and you're like, a dolphin? I mean, I don't know why, but... I know.
Well, I had... I don't have a lot of people work on me, but someone asked me to do a trade a couple weeks ago, and I said, sure. He was younger, and I remember people would do that with me when I was younger, so especially if I didn't have the resources. So I was like, sure, I'll do that. So we did it, and he said, I don't know why I have to tell you this, but a dog showed up when I was working on you. And I laughed, because the first book I wrote, the science fiction, is about dogs that become a sentient through nanotechnology. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's one of my favorites. I'm a Gandalf lover.
Is it Gandalf plural?
I love it. I'm like,
that's awesome.
When he said, this is weird, a dog came through, I said, no, that's not weird at all, because he was giving him puppies, and I was like, oh, I still have projects to work on. That project's not dead yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but he was young and he was questioning it, and I was like, oh no, he was like, I don't understand why a dog came through. I was like, oh no, that dog was needed.
I needed the dog. Don't question yourself.
Yeah. So I was like, don't ignore it when it comes.
Oh, there's so many crazy stories I've heard, just like even in school, where maybe I went to a Christian university for a year, and it wasn't uncommon that university was a little more charismatic. People were more in tune to that stuff growing up, just within the Christian paradigm. So there's more those who were more intuitive, or whatever they want to be called, seers or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'd have these too, where just you'd see someone or a situation, you'd see an imagery, or like I'm trying to remember a situation, even like the first day of class, and it goes in, and she went up and told this girl something, and she said she saw that a bird, when she finished, she walked into class, she saw this bird land upon her shoulder or something. It was a very specific bird, and like on her left shoulder, like she just saw this, right? Went up and
Yeah.
told her, kind of weird, right? Whatever, like, hey, I just saw this, like imaginary bird thing, right? But it wasn't. It's
Yeah.
just like she just wanted to say, I felt like, here's the language and that dynamic. I felt like the Lord
Yeah.
showed me a bird, so it's like offering this to them, and then whatever they do with it. Well, the girl broke down crying because this bird means this, and all these things connect, and her grandma died recently, blah blah blah. I'm like, but like that's like, to me, that's like, I don't know. You're energetically seeing a symbol set that's relevant to them. You're perceiving
Yes.
it, so
Yes.
it doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. For some
Exactly.
reason, you perceived it in that way.
It's crazy to see how that unfolds sometimes too, when it is like kind of the weirdest symbol or a weird one,
Yeah.
and you bring that through, and then it's like there's just so many of these, and you really realize kind of like how like this synchronicity thing, but on kind of like another level, because you're seeing how it's like it was literally, even though how weird it was the perfect thing to stitch all of this together in
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
Interdimensional
Yes.
dominoes.
Well, one night I was at a little dinner party. There were like 6 of us, and I just started reading. Somebody asked me to do it, and my friend George, I never met his mother, never knew her, knew nothing about her. Didn't even know she had passed. Learned she had recently passed. Well, she showed up, and I said she's holding a yellow flower, and then his wife just broke down and started crying. Her favorite flower were sunflowers. And and the same night there was a girl sitting next to me, and I said, I don't know why they're showing me a pink rabbit. Like, what is with the pink rabbit? And she literally jumped up and said, shut up. She said, no one knows this. She said, no one knows this. She said, but I'm going to tell you because I have to. She said, I sleep with a pink rabbit at night. And I was just like, I
Yeah.
mean, you just can't know. You just can't.
It's a
know.
crazy life, man. When
Yeah.
you hear those stories over and over, but it's like, it's cool. It's like cool, kind of weird. You like hearing all the time. It's nice that weird seems to be normal, and it seems to benefit people's lives. It's not weird for weirdness sake, which is cool
No.
too. But
No.
We were
Well,
talking
and-
about how the younger kid, he saw the dog, and then kind of questioned it, but then you were confirming like, no, that's definitely what I needed. I feel like this confirmation really helps us out to train it. Is that like something that in your own work you've found is beneficial to help people train their intuition? Is to have somebody else confirm it?
Yes, absolutely, because it builds up confidence. It's like anything. It's like practicing music or athletics or whatever. Having essentially the coach there going, okay, you performed it. You knocked it out of the park this time, And so then kind of going back, speaking of motor learning and repetition and so forth, like we started off the conversation, you go back and you go, okay, what did that feel like? So next time So next time when it comes, you don't question it. And you go, okay, but yeah, it did, because I remember one time I haven't done very many psychic fairs, but years ago I did a couple, and the first one I had ever done, it was a test. So what it was is people would get reading from me. I did it all for free. I think in like just like 3 hours, I did 21 readings. It was insane. I have no idea how I did it. I thought afterwards I was on
Well done,
another
sir.
planet. I was on another planet afterwards. I was just floating. But this one girl, I remember one of the very first ones I had. I said I just saw her working out. I saw all these different dots connecting, and so I said all of them. And I was still new doing this for outside of friends and family at the time. And I'll tell you, the minute that she was a stone wall. I mean, when I was giving the information, so it was not giving me anything to go on. So I was like, so in my brain, I was going, God, am I just full of shit? Right? Like, what is the, like, am I messing this up right now? Like, what the hell? And then it was funny. There was a moment in the reading where she couldn't hold back anymore. And she just like opened up and she just confirmed all of it. And then I love, she was like the first person I had that day, and the rest of the day flowed, because I was like, okay, Christian, like, you know what you're doing. Like, just if it shows up, say it.
That dynamic too of like watching someone, you said unfold, or like to me, like the imagery of a rose or something unflowering, or unbudding, or what flowering? Sorry, actually flowering, right? But actually, so you're ideally interacting with people or relationships or dynamics, especially when you're trying to help people connect to themselves, really. But
Yeah.
you're dancing around them or engaging them like peacocking or like birds, but it's not for like,
Yeah.
reproductive sensual sexual engagement, but it's more for just
Yeah.
self-help on that level or
Yeah.
whatever. But you're
Yeah.
trying to dance around their heart, or that diagram that you have that you showed the other night.
Yeah.
Like you're finding a way to help them open up, or just open up enough to receive even just enough like love that's pure and free and overflow,
Yeah.
so they can get their own engine started to love and heal themselves, and like let them flower. I don't know. Flower is a cool term, I guess. Is what I'm
Well,
saying.
and I think that's an interesting segue, because when I first started doing this, I attracted a lot of people who tested me. And I did do a lot of mediumship in the beginning, because there were things I couldn't have known. One of my clients at the time, her father showed up in a blue tracksuit. And I said, and I even saw the color of her nails that color, and I didn't know. And I said, so you paint your colors that color because it reminds you of him. And she was floored. And I swear to God, the skeptics will come out. It's interesting. I got to a point, the first year I was doing this, and I like through Instagram, and I said, you know what, I don't want to call those people in anymore. Like, I want people that are really doing the work, because I don't want to do parlor tricks anymore. I was like,
sure, totally.
I was getting a lot of people who were testing me, and that were skeptical. And I'm happy that you're a skeptic. As I say, don't believe me, don't believe yourself, and don't believe anyone else, which I think is attributed to Buddha. So I'm like, be skeptic and ask questions. But there's a different energy when someone is second guessing you and being and wanting to test you.
It's kind of like, okay, so part of it, I don't know, this is oversimplifying, but at least in the dynamic that seems disrespectful, it seems accurate in this metaphor analogy. It's like someone hiring a tour guide about a place they've never been.
Yeah.
Right? They're hiring the tour guide, assuming, like, ideally, if I'm hiring a tour guide, I'm hoping they're going to communicate shit I don't know, or maybe I do know, in a way I've never heard before. Their own stories, their own nuances, their own intuitive perceptions of the land. Maybe they've lived there, maybe they have experiences, maybe they perceive things you don't.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, desiring some kind of engagement based on their own knowledge and intuition of these realms I don't quite live in and understand in the ways they do. So if I'm hiring you, I'm expecting a co-creative engagement. There's a submission to like this beautiful process. But then when people hire you to be like, well, let's see if this tour guide's a piece of shit, and I'm going to bring my fact book, and I'm going to be like, well, I don't see that measurement here, and like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you can pay me, but this isn't very fun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a beautiful analogy. I love that. Absolutely. That's exactly what it feels like. And I got one person like that weeks ago, but she was a referral. So if the people that have found me through Instagram, I don't have that issue with, because they already know what they're getting.
Yeah, totally. Right on.
Know.
Is it predominantly just readings that you do for people then? You said you don't do mediumship, but what else is your business oriented around, if anything?
So, right now, primarily, it's the readings. I have been developing flower essences, which I started taking when I was a kid. And I'm living in the mountains. It's spring. I'm surrounded with them. So I learned how to do it.
Awesome.
And it's been a really interesting ride, because speaking of Christ and Christianity, I chose the Trillium, which is 3 flowers, 3 leaves. It's connected to the 3. And so I feel like it's got the Christ nature. And I picked one that was called a Wake Robin, which is this beautiful blood red. And it helps people to birth things. The Native Americans used it for birthing pain. So it helps you bring things into the world. It helps you essentially become your authentic self. And
dude, I love that shit, man.
Yeah. So I'm designing the labels now, and I'm gonna put them on the website soon. So I'm gonna start doing that. And I think what I want to do is make the process. There you go. Absolutely. There's that beautiful thing. So thank you so much, Zach. That's lovely. Here's a funny thing, guys. Another synchronicity. Again, we can't know. It's all on purpose. We can't know about how things happen. I found a piece of artwork in the house that I'm living in that I saw over a decade ago, and my friend who's here with me is a curator, and it's her house, and so the little piece is. Got trilliums on it, and the other night I looked at it and I was like, holy crap, that's trilliums. And I saw it over a decade ago. I didn't know who bought the artwork, and when I came up here, I saw it was her, and I loved it when I had seen it. I didn't even know what flower they was. And I've seen it here for years and didn't even get that close to see that it was a damn trillium, and it's a wake robin just like that. So
Right.
I'm like,
Mm.
and I was very called to do that. So what I want to do is more integrative. So bring in the oils and bring in the flower essences for clients as well,
Cool.
and do readings to help people use these wonderful natural elements to so that people can take whatever the energy and the information and the practices that we identify within a reading, and then also have these other support mechanisms within oils and flower essences. Because guys, I am a huge skeptic myself. I'm of all this stuff. I don't know. I sometimes I'm like, how am I doing this? Like, I was so skeptical for years. So all of this, even though I grew up with it, all that, I was always like, really. And it's interesting. Flower essences, I was very skeptical of, but I started using them when I was like 16, and they blew me away. I just, how can something so simple be so powerful? And by the way, I've been using them recently, and oh my gosh, have they been detoxing me emotionally? I'm like, oh, I gotta
Okay,
chill
so
on
can
that
you
one.
differentiate between like the flower essences versus essential oils? I'm assuming
Yeah,
you're
so
talking about there's
essential-
different dynamics here, right?
Yes. So the essential oils are the actual extraction from the plant, whether it be the
Mhm.
root or the bark or the flower itself. Okay. And so flower essences, it sounds really frou-frou how they're made, but it works. Is that you essentially make like a sun tea with them. So
Mhm.
you take water, preferably a really good source of water, nothing out of a bottle, or the tap. I use it out of the tap here, but it comes straight out of the aquifers off the mountain because I have a
Mm.
well. So here I went on ahead and used it. Nothing is city water, everything. And by the way, Perrier or somebody came up to this part of the country. I'm in North Georgia, and tested the water here and said that it was some of the purest on the planet that they had ever
Cool.
tested. So someone had told
Right
me that
on.
years ago. So I'm using that water, and it's water from ancient glaciers, from the aquifers in the ground that were here. And where I'm at right now is also a temperate rainforest. So you take the water and you ask the flowers for permission, and you go out in the morning and you cut them without touching them. You don't want to touch them, and you have them float on the surface of the water in the sunlight for 3 to 4 hours. And it infuses the energy of the water, or of the flower, into the water, and then you combine it with I combine it with an apple brandy. Most people use a brandy. I don't use any grain alcohols because I don't like it, which stabilizes like a tincture, right? It stabilizes it, so you make your tincture, and then you bottle it. You put about 7 to 10 drops in each bottle, with a little more brandy and some more of the spring water. And there you go.
Okay, so let me just say, to affirm any, like, you've kind of been on this now or whatever, but you're having trouble believing, like, is this even real, right? Dude, to me, what you just described is like the most ancient, purest form of pure alchemy, or pure, like, honoring the earth's processes in a way that strips out all, like, manufacturing shit. Like, you're going from not touching, to me, like, the way I understand it, so
Cradle
you're
to
not connecting
cradle.
you're not short-circuiting the flower by touching the petals. You're allowing its biophotonic life to continue on from transferring it into the water. Now, there's ways for me. I'm thinking of distilled water with ionic minerals or other minerals, and then vortexing it or putting it through a structured water device and different things.
No, they say
But even
no.
being a what's that?
They say don't use structured water. Like, you want water straight out of the earth if you can get it, or straight out of the stream.
Ideally, out of the earth is structured, right?
Well,
but if
I mean,
you have to, like,
unstructured is what I meant. Like, you just said it, distilled. Like, don't use distilled because it's dead. Like, you want to use something that is alive, preferably where you harvest the flowers. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Maybe that's what you were saying.
Well, I think so. I guess the way I understand it, the structuring adds life to it again. It vortexes, or it structures the water so it can actually take in intentions, if you will, more fractally, or that dynamic. And then you can add ionic minerals, which give life to the distilled water, but it gets rid of the fluoride, gets rid of chlorine, all the chemicals, all the TDS, so it's pure water. So then you charge it with ionic minerals, or extra electrolytes, if you will, or the actual natural minerals that you can put into it. These are just little supplements in my own mind that I go through of, like, additional ways I would play with this process. Because what you're describing, though, in essence, is incredibly pure. So the flower puts in, the sun continues to illuminate the petals. It does whatever photonic process it does, but then that infuses into the water. And then
Yeah.
you're talking about putting the brandy in, and like all of that makes perfect sense to me. Why that would be tremendously healing for a human body in tremendous amounts of ways.
In a very subtle way, guys. Like it's so like it doesn't necessarily knock you over. Although I will say the ones I made recently have knocked me over a little bit. But I won't lie. I made 3, and one is called Grancy Graybeard Tree, which I love the name of it. It sounds very wizardy. And
Yeah, totally.
and the natives used it to help cleanse the liver. And when I touched the tree and I said, what is your message for me, because I researched it online and so forth, but it's not a flower essence that's very popular, which is odd because it's native to the South, and there's a lot of them, but a lot of people don't know about this tree. And it said return to innocence, which I loved because it also had like this wizard energy. And the week I made it, Gandalf was like coming through in some weird way,
Right
like a
on.
wizard.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, what's this about? So,
Yeah.
you know, and Gandalf aged backwards, you know, I mean, not Gandalf, Merlin did. So when I think of a wizard, there is like kind of this return to innocence. It's like you have wisdom, and innocence when we're young is like the not knowing, and potentially even ignorance, but the innocence of age is the wisdom that comes with it, and the faith that we have to relearn essentially after our quote unquote fall from grace, or
And the
fall from
faith to
innocence or so
learn
forth.
that to
Yeah,
be perfect
so-
is to be present.
Exactly. So, you know, so it's been an interesting process. I would have never, this was not on my list of things to do, guys. Like doing flower essences, there you go. Yeah. Or it's called a French tree too. I like that. French tree doesn't sound as interesting to me as Grancy Graybeard. I can't find where the name comes from, but to me, it's like detoxing the anger and the trauma. And what I ended up doing was drinking a little bit of the water that I had left over that didn't fit in the bottle. And oh my God, it energetically was like, oh, you really want to knock this pattern out, don't you? We're going to detox you throughout the next week.
Cool,
and
man.
bring
Right
out
on.
everything that's obstructing you from healing from this trauma. And I was like, oh, wait. Okay, yeah, you're not supposed to drink the water. That's right. After you make it, you're supposed to dilute it. And, but I had just this
Whoops.
tiny bit left. And I was like, I can handle it.
It's like
I'm
overdosing
advanced.
psychedelics, but you're overdosing plant
I know,
psychedelics in a
It
different
is.
way.
It is very much so. It really, you gotta be, and again, with all that water in my chart, like boom, like I can literally sometimes just inhale with stuff and go, okay, etherically, and go, okay, I have a headache, Tylenol, or whatever, and then boom, whatever. It's like I don't tend to need a lot of medication ever.
Yeah,
So-
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
It says that that graybeard tree is really just named that because the way that it looks, because it looks like this fluffy.
well, yeah, like the graybeard,
thing.
but I don't know where the Grancy part comes from. I was like, what's Grancy mean? So I never
What does
found that.
mean?
Yeah, right.
Is that
So
a
I
real
never-
word?
I don't know.
Grancy, this I don't know why it's. One thing it is a municipality of Vaud in Switzerland. I don't know if that. Maybe they have them there.
They have them in there. Maybe they have them there in Europe too. Well, there are different varieties. But again, like I've only chosen the flowers and edible ones that my
Oh,
next ones-
that's probably from like fragrance. Do they smell a lot?
yeah, they smell a combination between lilac and honeysuckle.
Yeah, in like an
So-
1828 dictionary, they had a definition for Grancy, and it was basically a shortened term of fragrance.
Oh my God! I love that you just answered that for me. You
So
are.
it's a fragrant old man's beard.
Oh my God! I love that.
Gandalf.
Okay, that's going exactly. That's going on the website, especially after Galadriel got it on, right? Like he's gonna be super fragrant after that.
Yeah, here I'll put it up on the stream real quick from this
awesome.
dictionary. This is a huge comment, but here's the beginning of it.
That's amazing. Well, there you go. Okay, we see it. Sweetness of smell. Okay, well there you go. So a smelly beard. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I love it. Well, there you go. So yeah, so my next ones are going to be honeysuckle because it's coming into bloom, and that one is about living in the present. Honeysuckle is being present, letting go of the past and any obstructions that prevent us from being present. So I love that. And then I think
Yeah,
I'm going to
cool.
do.
Can you give us like a
Wild,
special
Green
alert
Gold.
when this stuff's ready? Because I would like to buy some.
Absolutely, they're not going to be very expensive at all. Because
Okay.
I made huge stock
Good.
bottles. I made more than
I'll
I
buy
thought.
them.
Yeah, like I'm thinking like anywhere $10 to $15, like it's somewhere
Great.
within that. So it's not going to be expensive at all.
Oh, great
So,
gifts
yeah.
to give out for people! What a good idea, people!
Yeah.
You should come check it out.
Great gift
I might be
idea.
doing that.
Yeah, so the honeysuckle is coming. So yeah, so to finish answering your question, so I want to, where I see this heading right now is just being more integrative. I'm essentially, it's weird. I'm just throwing everything at the wall right now because that's what the message I've gotten, and just seeing what
Sure.
sticks. So doing the
Yeah.
memes, doing the readings, doing this, like just letting it all happen. You know, if
Yeah.
I feel inspired to do it, do it. I just want to be expressive and enjoy this, and hopefully eventually, well, not hopefully, eventually the books will be published, and you know, whether through standard publication or self-publication or whatever, and you know, and I'll get that out too. So you know, I feel like we're all here, I'm sure you guys can relate, we're all doing multiple things, you know.
Yeah, I got like
It's
53
just-
jobs or
Little
something
bit.
like that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, Zach, you were saying like you were so busy. I was like, God, you're doing so much. So yeah, I get it, and I think that's where we are now. There is, and this is teaching us to be present and purposeful every moment.
And in
Because-
whatever realm you exist in, you know, everything you're doing in the realm and sphere of reach of your influence, you know, that Zach and I are
Yeah.
doing in our own ways, and now together, and then with Jen and with Angela and all these different people.
Yeah.
But we're just being present with what we're doing, and it's cool. It is what it is. It's great.
Yeah, and hopefully people, you know, people are finding some form of peace and awareness and consciousness through it all, because you know, it can't hurt to have more of that in the world in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think that. Well, I mean, I guess maybe if we were really trying to dig into it, maybe if we had world peace, we would start to get like weaker. But I don't think anybody's worried about that right now.
Well, and I wonder like what the point is. Like once if we all awaken, does it just all collapse and start all over again? You know, does it just all, and the story begins again? You know?
Yeah. I've always I've asked that question myself, basically just in like a more personal way. But there feels like there's very much so sometimes like a rush to whatever, wake up or become aware or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But do you really want to reach the finish line of like that enlightenment? I mean, what if the finish line of that meant like human experience no more? Maybe you
Well,
like this thing.
I have an answer for you. So think upon this, and I say it the way I say it. I say before enlightenment, the dishes; after enlightenment, the dishes. Life
yeah.
goes on. We continue to express ourselves. We continue to participate. It doesn't stop. The difference is this: we get to participate on our own terms and not in our conditioning after that. We get to express from that place of grace and clarity and enjoyment. As I say, life is for entertainment purposes only. It is not. It is not to be so fucking serious and like, oh my God. But first we got to learn how to use the remote so we can change the damn channel to find
No shit,
the
man.
movie we want to watch.
I
you
can't
know?
help it. It's in my DNA. You don't control that, yo.
We get distracted by all the commercials and we get distracted by all these things. We're like, oh, I'm
Start by
gonna try
turning
this
off the
now.
TV, or at least
Yeah.
muting the commercials. Jesus.
Well, or what we get to do is we get to write our own script. Is really what it comes
yeah.
down to at that point, because my thought is we get so caught up in what we should do and what we have to do, and we forget that it's all a choice. So
Sure.
before enlightenment, the laundry, or I think there's another. I think it might be
Now,
Taoist or Buddhist.
Here's this. So this, when you said that, it's like I heard the take on it, and I've never heard it, but yeah, it's one that really resonated with me, coming out of the Christian paradigm and some of the cross-religious,
Yeah.
metaphorical similarities in their sayings and teachings, right? But I think it's
Yeah.
Buddha. before enlightenment, chop wood, carry
There you
water.
go. There
After
you go.
enlightenment, chop like that. That did it
There
for
you
me,
go.
man. That's it.
There
How
you
do you
go.
get simpler than that, man? Love people, right? Or just like do your shit, work out your own shit. But like you still gotta do this shit. Still gotta fucking
And
everybody poops, man. Everybody
take
poops.
care of yourself. Exactly. It's the maintenance. And anything worth maintaining is worth having. So even when you get to the point of enlightenment, from my perspective, you get to the point of enjoyment, where it just all becomes entertainment without the attachment or the
Yeah.
aversion. But aversion is also attachment because you're attached to pleasure and you're trying to get away from
Totally.
pain.
Yeah,
You know?
So enjoyment versus pleasure. Pleasure is that you can potentially get that by dissociating or detaching from things or avoiding things, but enjoyment is
Yes.
even with not avoiding anything, even the uncomfortable stuff. Like you can find enjoyment even through the uncomfortable dynamics.
Yes, which is to say entertainment. So you are engaged regardless of the
Yeah,
judgment.
yeah.
And you don't let the judgment intercept the enjoyment or the entertainment.
Yeah,
To be honest.
totally.
I catch myself laughing at this is where the laughing Buddha comes from, because to me, from my perspective, it's all entertainment, but people forget that. And I catch myself getting really serious sometimes and then laughing after I was serious recently. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a second, what the hell was that about?
Right.
Yeah, there's some like Buddhist list of 4 things you should do every day, and for some reason the first 3 always elude me, but the 4th one was like find a way to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
And like I try to laugh at myself about everything. I feel the more that you can like kind of make a joke out of yourself but still take yourself serious at the same time, like the better off you are.
Yeah. Well, and I always say you can be responsible, you can be accountable, you can be focused, and you don't have to be serious. You don't have to. You don't have to be serious, but you can be focused. And some people might go after me for that. But my thought is that it's all entertainment, and when we get caught up in it, we immediately lose our presence. We immediately lose our purpose and our awareness, and we suddenly are, as Dhamma says in the Four Agreements, our attention is hooked by something outside of us, and it's controlling us. So, yeah.
So, any other thoughts on how we get away from those things outside of us, controlling us from outside, to more embody that authentic self that we haven't already gone over?
I'll say this. Develop your spiritual practice. I'm not going to say find it, because it's not about finding it. Develop it. And in the development, books will come to you, people will come to you, for anyone listening out there who doesn't, because enlightenment, not for Buddha, not for Christ, not for anyone, none of it came just because. They all practiced. They all did what they did. And so it's important that what we're doing here in our consciousness is to practice that consciousness. And for me, the books that have been really big for me are everything written by Don Miguel Ruiz and Eckhart Tolle. Those are 2 of my Bibles. And then I was blessed enough to have a mentor who keeps me grounded too. So, I grew up with her. So, but I'll say this, I return to those books over and over again. And I've developed, and here's the deal, it's kind of like an artist. So they say, learn from the masters and then draw for yourself. So you learn how the masters did it. You must learn how the system works before you can change it. So you learn how these other people did it, and then you apply it to your own life and you practice it. But it's about finding the practice, and then nothing on the outside can influence us at that point, because you don't allow it. You say no. You respect yourself too much, and I say respect is the only boundary that you ever need. So, and nothing, because and if you're clear within yourself and you're honest, then nothing can attach to you. So nothing can trigger you on the outside. So that's how I see it.
I like that.
Yeah, I think if we're honest enough with ourselves, we realize in a certain way there is no real like outside. It's an experience we're having inside of our head, really.
Exactly.
I mean, what's more than that, but we perceive it inside of our head in a certain way.
Exactly. There is no other. It is all one. And when you start to see that, it gets a lot more fun from my perspective. So
I've definitely enjoyed the unity more than the separation in my life, but there's definitely still a lot of ways with myself that I'm trying to get out of the battle that separation was in my kind of format of doing it.
I'm told Zach while I'm here, I'm gonna follow him around. He can't separate. I'm separated. Zach, where are you? Where is Zach?
that's really part of the practice. I do it too. I separate, like I said, when I punish myself or I beat myself up over things, whatever. I'm immediately going, I'm separate. I need to fix something, and it's just not true. Or when I get triggered by somebody or someone makes me sad or I get upset with them for something they did, I'm like, this is mine. They're just doing what they do. So yeah, it's but again, that's part of the practice, and we have to keep doing it, because otherwise we will fall back to sleep, which is okay too.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a problem unless you have a problem with it, right? It doesn't matter if you don't mind.
No, and then you wake up again and you're like, oh, what was I doing? Why did that happen? And then you go, oh, okay. So, and then you move on.
Do you feel like there's a difference between like need and want in doing this kind of engagement with the self? I mean, I personally feel that you get different results if you're doing it because you feel like you need to do it or whether you want to do it. And so do you feel there's a difference? And if yes, how do we get into the good one?
Okay. So this is interesting. You're asking me something that I just wrote in the book, and I love it. So I define need as the impulse we feel, as the have to. Need oftentimes is derived by like the need to drink water, to be hungry, whatever. It relates to the body. If we transfer need into the mind, then it becomes a want. It becomes a grasping. It becomes a psychological need, not a physical one. And so we begin to grasp after it. And the grasping, the narrative that then we design around the grasping and the need becomes the desire. So the need and the want becomes the desire. And we go, this is why we have to do it. And so and this all comes from the mind. It's the survival centers going, we have to do this because if we don't do it, we're not going to survive, which is where that impulse to potentially hurry up or anticipating something all comes from. And it's all that, again, that survival stuff that we've got in there. So the way that I see it is that, again, I define it as, instead of, I don't want to be motivated, because I find when I'm motivated, it's coming, I want this and I have to have it, and here's why is the story that comes, or I need this, I want it, and this is why I need it. So I've been really pausing and stopping myself from creating those narratives and going, can I just choose it because I'm inspired by it, because again, it entertains me, because it would entertainment to have that experience? Do I have to be motivated to do it? Do I have to need it? Can I just choose it? And so I've been interrupting that narrative of why I think I need things, and go, because here's the deal. If you create a need, you will simultaneously create the circumstance to fulfill that need. And then you're creating a lack circumstance. And so that becomes very much so a cycle of not enough again. And so we begin the not enough. I'm not enough. This isn't enough. And so it's vital for us to go, wait a second, interrupt that cycle and go, can I just choose this because I choose it?
Yeah.
Why do I have to justify it? So yeah. So that's interesting you asked me that, because that's something I meditate on a lot, because my perception is that as Buddha said, desire is the root of all suffering. And yeah.
And is desire rooted in the wanting or the needing,
hold on,
or both?
I was going to ask the same question, and maybe I can ask an additional layer like this. So were you saying that want, desire, and need are like three overlapping spheres, or that it sounded like maybe you were saying desire is born from a want and a need, but want is born from a desire? Want is born from a need.
One is born from a need. So we have our biological impulses, right? They're never going away. We're going to want to eat, as long as we're in this body, we're going to want to have sex. We're going to want to have to do all these different things, right? Because it's what our body wants. So it's natural for our body to desire. It's normal, or to have the needs, essentially, and even the wanting. The desire comes in with the narrative. It's where the brain comes in and goes, this is why I need it. Now we can be very practical about it and go, yeah, it's okay to desire this physically because of that. So there's a difference between a physical lack and a psychological lack. So what comes before the need is the impulse to eat or to drink water. What happens though is, and it's natural for our bodies to grasp. Babies are always grasping, right? It's part of who we are. I need to survive. But then you bring in the psychological aspect of it, and that's where the I have to have this because ... I have to have this because it's going to make my life better. So you could have all your needs met, all your physical needs met, and you go, I still need that car, I still need that bigger house, I still need this, I still need that. And so the desire is born out of the perceived lack in our life, and the perceived lack is all psychological. Now we have definite physical lack when we need food, when we need water, so forth. But a lot of spiritual teachers, and this hasn't been highlighted a lot. Now I want to highlight it in my work, which is why I'm writing about it. I wrote about it last week. I did the whole chapter on lack last week. And is enough enough? When is enough enough? So I think it's great you guys are also on this page, because my thought is once we identify the psychological lack, we sublimate or integrate that conflict within us, because we're no longer in conflict, because we're not always looking for things or telling ourselves why we need something. And most people I find are looking for love as much as anything. They want love, acceptance, all that stuff. So that's part of that psychological lack, that we have. So it's important. Yeah, so it's important. So before desire comes the need and the want, from my perspective. And the perception that we don't have something, we don't have enough, and we need to get it.
Yeah. Cool.
So is there a word that we can use to have something that we want to go after that isn't kind of rooted in this structure of like it's coming out of this need place, but it's really, I mean, maybe just like more logical or something. I don't really know.
So I've been meditating on that as well, and I've just decided choice. I choose this now. Without justification, without
so instead of like I want some ice cream, I choose to go have ice cream right now.
That's exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I read all of your minds. I know.
Exactly.
At least you and I spend so much time together, man.
I'm choosing ice cream now, because the mind will very quickly turn it into a need. Well, of course you need the ice cream. You need to eat it because you need to survive, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you bought it, so you better eat it.
Yeah, exactly. All those narratives, right? And then if you don't eat it and it goes bad, then your brain can go, oh, I wasted money on that. Why did I do that? I'm so stupid.
Yeah. Why did I sabotage myself like that?
Exactly. So so it's, for me, in a lot of my teachings, I want to put my finger on the perception of lack and that psychological lack that we feel. And it goes back, I kind of modeled off of Eckhart Tolle talking about psychological time versus clock time. Clock time is just a structure that we have here to support us in our life. But psychological time is the past, going back in time, going, which is just a narrative. And so
more the concept that there's a thing that happened before and a thing that will happen next, rather than something 3 hours or 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And so the lack and desire operates very similarly. You have your physical lack. It's a natural part of our experience here. And then you have your psychological. You have all those narratives and stories in your head going, oh my God. So it's important that we maintain that. So, and it goes back to the practice. We want to watch all the narratives. What
Deeper question. About? You said, "Oh my God, where's God? What is God?"
If I could put a face to God, God is the expressive force, which we are made in the image of God. So we are expressive beings. God is the expressive force, and also, I would say, the witnessing presence of that force.
Which kind of creates the conjugate for the force to be substantiated, basically. Right?
Yeah, I would say so, because as many spiritual teachings teach us, everything that we see emerges out of the no-thingness.
Right.
So if that is the case, then the first thing to emerge out of the nothingness is God. And that perceived consciousness. And then everything springs from there forth from there. Yeah.
So does the note sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Does God play into the work that you do at all? Do you feel like you engage with spirit guides, or is your work isolated unto yourself?
So I really don't like it when people say spirit told me to say this or spirit told me to
Mm-hmm.
do this. I don't even like channels because to me, when someone says I channeled this, it's almost like they could also blame the channel. It's almost
Sure.
like they're outsourcing the
totally.
responsibility. So I don't even like that. Of course, Eckhart Tolle would say in his talks or things like I channeled, but he's not. He said he clarifies it. He's like, I'm not channeling it from something outside of me. It's not someone
Totally.
or some spirit or something
100%.
like that. And so I like that he clarified that, and other spiritual teachers were. But there's a lot of people that do, like Abraham Hicks, who has some very good information. But it kind of annoys me because I'm like, why isn't that you? Why can't you? Why does
See,
it
it's
have
funny-
to have
Sure.
a name outside of
It's
you?
funny to me. It's funny to me that you say that because to me, spirit was a unifying term because I grew up in
Yes,
Christian dynamic.
exactly.
So like
Yes.
to me, like when I said God told me, to me that means like the Christian Abrahamic God, right? And like I'm
Exactly.
like shit. Well, I mean something more universal than that. I mean like universal in my own intuition. It's myself, but it's like, you know. Okay, so I'd go to like Great Spirit or Spirit.
And
You know,
that's where I'm at now. But I'm still very conscious of how I use the term because
Well,
I
it's funny.
still
Well, it's
feel
funny.
like
I'm like, I just think it's really cool
Yeah.
that you came from the other direction on that, where that term initially was like, to me, that was like a really helping stepping stone, but to you, that
Yeah.
started out kind of like a dirty term. You know,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Well, because I don't want to outsource my responsibility to anything
Mhm.
or anyone. Not a
Totally.
God, not a person, not a
100% with you
thing.
on
Do you
that.
feel that
not a
that's
place,
disempowering, or what is the reason that you don't want to do that?
because I'm making all the choices.
Mhm.
That
There
100%
isn't anyone else.
responsibility.
Yeah, there isn't anyone else taking care of me but me. Now, does that mean that I don't have support? Absolutely. But I have support because I'm available to it. So I still made the choice to be available and accessible for the support to come through. And I'm paying attention to recognize the opportunities that show up
Yeah.
when they show up. Yeah.
They
so,
say great power, with great power comes great responsibility. Would you say that with
yes.
great responsibility thus comes great power?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the more responsible we are and accountable, I use both kind of in tandem because I don't feel like you can be one without the other. So
Sure.
when we're responsible, I define it as the ability to respond. Well, again, going
Totally.
back to my choice, I want to choose my life consciously. I want to live in total consciousness. So I'm doing my best to make all my choices in that. Do I still make mistakes and potentially do things still get messy? Absolutely. And my perception is that there's a purpose. So I look at it and go, okay, why did this pile of manure just show up for me? And how do I plant the wildflowers? And,
Yeah.
you know, like how do I use it?
Where's the garden I'm supposed to fertilize with this?
Exactly. That's exactly my
So
question.
do you? Okay, so would
Yeah.
you resonate then with the paradigm? Because I feel like my ideal state of being, my always ever presentness with self,
Yes.
if you will, is not having any triggers, or if I have a trigger, it doesn't get to a
Yes.
reaction. So I'm like, something I've always like found fascinating about myself. It's not like I pride myself in it or I stuff my emotions down. Sure, there's part of it, but like I can honestly say, even in a really very long-term, not fun, very verbally, emotionally abusive relationship, that I never said anything to spite her. Like
Yeah.
I just, whatever my mom said, grew up like, you know, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything. If you can't say, and I change it my own way, not like being too nice, but if I can't say whatever truth I want to say in a constructive way,
Yeah.
why say something that will just cause a downward spiral?
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
tomorrow I'll be like, shit, that wasn't really the way to handle it. Fuck, now I got to repair that. Just
Yeah.
so we can try to talk about it this way, whatever. So like, so anyway, so that dynamic of also, I'm not sure this ties into that, but I was thinking of that dynamic. The more we're aware of self, the more we have to take radical responsibility for self. So when you get rid of all gods, all archetypes, all
Yeah.
guides, all spirit guides, like, no, it's me, man. I
Yes.
don't care who influences me. I make every decision in every moment I'm in. It's me.
Exactly.
And so, that's what I was saying. So not reacting. So like anytime I'm being triggered, fine. Ideally being in a space where I can be so present with self, even though if I'm like, I got to leave the room because I don't want to say anything, but like whatever it is, that I'm not reacting. I'm choosing how I want to. Even if like, here's the interesting part. Even if I decide, you know, fuck it, I'm going to choose to give into my reaction, but
Yes.
I pause and choosing. That's
Yes.
like the Zen, it's like point or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, all of that. And so I would say you could also term God as being information. as well, potentially, just information. So you get the
Sure.
opportunity to respond to that information and use it or not use it.
Yeah.
Am I going to use this information or not?
I've definitely felt super overwhelmed by information before and gone, oh my god, so maybe I was being intuitively right.
Exactly.
No doubt.
I use that term emphatically, but you're right. I don't know if I need to change it or not, but it's an emphatic term for me, and I've used it since God, when it became, I see what you said, God, there, when it became a thing. I remember being like young, like being like 5 or something, and being reprimanded like in church or whatever. It's like, don't take the Lord's name in vain, like, and having to say, oh my gosh.
Right.
But I've always said, oh my God, my whole life.
I've never really understood how gosh makes it better. Like, it's obviously slang for God, right? Like, everyone knows that.
Exactly.
My grandma would say it's like the intention that matters. Like we'd say, "Oh crap!" She's like, "Well, you meant to say shit." So it's kind of the same thing. I'm like, "Grandma, but you say crumb bum. I mean, what are you trying to say? You're frustrated, but it doesn't. Don't you really mean shit? I would just communicated shit, right?
Yeah.
You know, come on, Grandma."
I love it. Well, and even the, oh my
Crumb.
God, to me it was always like an element of surprise or celebration or something. You know, sometimes it's not always like it's not about, you know, it doesn't have ill intent, you know, and that's that, and it wasn't when I was a kid either. So to your point, it's all the intent, absolutely. So
Yeah, it's funny.
So yeah, so this is some good stuff. Like that's a lot of and it's funny, like I in my work and my writing recently, I've been really, I'm gonna probably have to address it, but I'm not using the term God very much, and I will talk about that because I feel like it is a big word. I don't, and by the way, I don't use the word devil, the ego. I don't use those terms either at this point because, especially with my clients, they're like, that's too big. So I'm like, well, let's deconstruct what those things are. There's thoughts, behaviors, feelings, emotions, you know, that create the quote unquote devil or the ego or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, let's deconstruct what this is. Let's call it for what it is, and let's make it more manageable. So I feel like the same is with God. Let's make it more manageable, because I feel like a lot of religions, not all of them, but we made these avatars, these gods, these things bigger than life.
Sure.
And we can't digest them. We can't break them down, and it's very difficult for people. And so, how do you deconstruct God? How do you deconstruct, you know, the devil or a demon or the ego? How do you do that? And so, I hope that that's part of what I get to help people do, is that it's not some big out there thing. It's all right here and here. You know?
Do you have any idea when the book is going to be complete? I know you like asking an author this. Sometimes it's like it's
So the spirituality book I'm working on, I'm hoping in the next couple months. I feel like throughout, maybe within summer, and then I'm gonna attempt the traditional publishing way. I've been doing that for a while, and if that doesn't work, I'll just self-publish it. I'm gonna start a a podcast that's just like maybe a 5 to 10 minute devotional throughout the week for people to listen to, with some of the things that we've talked about tonight. Because I'm finding out, I talked to some friends and some people and got confirmation that people have been looking for like maybe like a 5 to 10 minute thing they could listen to think about throughout the day, and kind of like
a thought of the day
devotional
kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah, and just kind of start their day with it, or find it throughout the day when they're feeling stressed or whatever. And so I'm gonna start doing that, because the name of the book is Here on Purpose. And I already have the Instagram account that I haven't touched in almost 2 years. So I think I'm gonna just I think what I'm gonna do is just erase everything on that page or archive it, and just bring in just the podcast and do Instagram TV, and just have people, so they can find it on Instagram, they can find me on Apple and Anchor and wherever.
You know, that's funny. I had the Expanded Understanding. I got the Gmail address 7-8 years ago now. Like I just that the term came to me. It was what I was in the middle of. It was a season I knew I was coming up in my life, and like I just knew it was significant. Right, I
Yeah.
just bought like about a logo this last year, kind of. I started an LLC, like an actual bit, like just
Yay.
not really knowing where it's going, and like, oh look, it's at the top of our podcast, and we're doing this nightly, and Zach's got his ISN, and we've just come together and cohered,
Yay.
and it's like really fucking cool. That's just all kind of rolled together. But we made a Facebook page, an expanded understanding one or something at one point, or Instagram, and like I never used it, but now we're trying to we'll do it through the actual expand understanding Gmail account or whatever. It's all screwed up. So like there's not uniformity because I created an older account and we're trying to transfer it over, and it's a pain in the ass.
I know, and hopefully you also went after the website or some variation thereof.
Expandedunderstanding.life. And like
Yay.
dot, there's like dot several dots.
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
do that
maybe
too.
.com. I don't know.
I go
I don't
after it immediately. Well, the flower essence, I've decided I'm going to call them Fairy Forge flower essences. So I love the word Fairy Forge together for some reason, like forged by the fairies. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go through that
Cool,
website
man.
now.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was like fairyforge.com. So like, you know,
Right
so
on, man. That's super cool.
I do
Because it
all
makes
those
fairies a
things.
little more badass. Like they're like forged in metal and shit. These little fairies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of like the
Exactly.
dwarves or like
They're
whatever.
metal fairies.
That's
People
cool,
think
man.
those things are cute, but no, those bitches pack a punch.
Yeah, it's
Me too.
interesting. Like if you know your Shakespeare, like the fairies in there were basically in Midsummer Night's Dream. They
Oh
weren't
my
like so
God.
nice. They were very tricky and
So
Right,
let
the
me tell you
pixies or
guys one
something.
of my favorite ones, the
Do it.
Glenconner. The Glenconner is a Scottish fairy, and he would show up on the road as what you wanted or what you thought you wanted. And then like a carrot in front of you, he would have you chase him, but as the woman you wanted or the money or whatever. And then if you didn't recognize him as the fairy before you got to the cliff, he would lead you right off a cliff.
Mm.
And I love that. There was a fairy that would show up as you wanted, being a total jerk, and lead you off a cliff.
he's the fairy of unintentional cliff diving.
Exactly. But it was
Of
probably
shadow
because a lot of-
projection.
Exactly. It was probably like people getting home from the pub and falling off. That's probably how they described how they would like fall off the cliff when they were drunk. But
They were chasing
I
a
like-
fairy. They weren't drunk.
exactly. Exactly. So
It's much better on your eulogy.
Exactly. He died chasing the Glenconner. So
And
you
on
know,
your
so
epitaph.
yeah, right. So you know,
Word of the
so
day.
yeah, fairies are totally badass. People try and turn them into like something
Tinkerbell.
feminine or
They're all
Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Okay, I
and
will
they're
say on the
not.
idea of forging mythical creatures, the forging the what's his name? The actor who's dwarf. He played in Game of Thrones and whatever, but he also plays
Yeah,
this like giant
Peter Dinklage.
dwarf thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Peter Dinklage, right? Is his
Yeah,
name?
yeah. Okay, so he
Yeah.
plays this giant dwarf thing, the forger, whatever, in the recent movie, and he's like forging at the heart of a dwarf star, and they have this technology that spins around, and like Thor had to get it going again, and like
Yeah, it was
That's
in
bullshit.
it was in Thor. It was in
Yeah, right,
the
right, right.
Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah. that was
yeah.
cool shit.
Yeah.
He wasn't a fairy, but that was some badass shit. He's forging around like this dwarf star and like all this crazy shit.
Well, and I love the idea of flowers being forged by nature. You
Yeah,
know,
that's cool.
like it's just it kind of has a good ring to it. I thought so.
Totally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like nature has forged the flowers for us. So in a very soft, gentle way.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, they're forged with a mother's touch. It just
Yeah.
nurtures it into being very slowly.
Exactly. Exactly. So
You know, it's
yeah.
interesting that brings up an interesting Bible passage. It's something to the effect of, so like, Jesus says, and he's like talking about anxiety or worry, and he said, not any of you by worrying, adding 1 ounce of worry of your life, or doing anything worrying about tomorrow, what clothes you'll wear, what food you'll eat, but just trusting spirit, if you're well or self, or just being present in the moment, everything you're doing, and like, in your vortex, all the Abraham language and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
Because that not one of you in all your toil and struggle is more beautiful than this flower right
Yeah,
here.
the-
this one
the
flower
lilies
that
of the
just comes
field
and is
toil
gone in
not.
a day.
Yeah.
You know, this thing. It's just, look how beautiful this one little thing is.
So I'll joke. I joked with my mentor once. I said, "Yeah, but the lily doesn't have to pay damn bills or take
Yeah.
care
No
of its
shit,
body
man.
and eat." That's
No doubt.
I was like, Christ didn't say that. I was like, he
It's
didn't.
true. It's like
But
people are like, what would Jesus do? Like, how the fuck no, man? He's 2,000 years ago. I don't know what the fuck he
Yeah.
do. He
Hey,
didn't
wait,
pay the
you want me
bills.
to call him up on his cell
You
phone
know
and
what
ask him
Jesus
for it?
paying about? Like, oh,
Right?
dude, we gotta pay rent, man. Well, they gave the fish some coin out of a fish, but like, yeah, that was for taxes. But what about rent every day and shit? Do they catch fish magically every day? I don't know. Like, who knows?
Yeah, you have the website on a desktop. It's always prettier on a desktop than it is. Yeah, that sucker took me 2 months to make. A computer
Cool.
dying, and it was insane. So
Wow,
It's really pretty. The way that these trees load in is really pretty.
beautiful. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I say sometimes it's not about seeing the forest for the trees. Sometimes it's feeling the forest, and that's how you get through the trees.
Cool, man. I like that.
That's why the trees are different directions and upside down and so forth.
Wow.
And
What's that?
and
What's that symbol right there?
So it's two snakes, and I'll tell you why I use the snake. Again, I didn't realize this. So, and a friend just told me who's studying Native American languages. He said that in certain Algonquin native tongues, the snake means whole or holy and sacred, as well as medicine. So I love the idea, again, going back to Christianity, Moses and the caduceus, the two snakes on the staff, the medical staff, is that the poison can also be the medicine. And so again, like looking at our triggers, looking at what we do, and looking at how we feel harmed, then we have it. So it's kind of my symbol of the caduceus or whatever. And, of course, the Israelites were in the story in the New Testament or in the Old Testament. I guess it's in Genesis. Were being attacked by the snakes, and Moses erected the caduceus and said, "All that look upon this will be healed." And of course, they were. So
What's interesting in that story, the additional nuance that, if I remember right, so the specific word for the serpent that goes up the staff is a fiery serpent, a bronze fire made out of bronze. Yeah. It's a single serpent, which is interesting because in the Abrahamic tradition, they kind of eliminate the feminine or potentially the other side of the caduceus, but it does go up. And he says when you look upon, so instead of looking upon the poison of your old nature, looking upon the higher things, cycling your energy, raising your kundalini with the nahash or the fiery serpent.
Exactly. I always think of it in two, though. I mean, even though it says one, I always intuitively I've always felt like it was two.
100%, because that's where the text made me not getting the full truth or whatever. The point is that intuitively it sparks in you. There's more of a balance there and how your system actually works.
Yeah. So that was my initial logo, but this time it felt more in line to have the antlers with the eye because I'm the country clairvoyant. So I was like, let's just leave it there.
Yeah, the deer rack makes sense inside with the country thing, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I still left the snakes because I couldn't give them up because they were still such
cool.
a part of my life. So yeah. But yeah, this is the first website I have done. Well, the one previous to this I did 100% by myself, but I left a lot of the template. This is the first one where I just completely scrapped everything and turned it to the bare bones, and I've never done that before. But it's something I wanted many years ago for my art and didn't really get, and now this kind of has a little bit of everything. And I think if you click offerings, if you just go up to the offerings and click it, it'll take you to the page, and there's a snake on that page too. Yeah, there we go, with the flower. Look, it's the snake with the flower. So there you go.
Wow, man. I like that a lot. Instead of the cycle, it's like spiraling into a flower of a new growth instead of just eating its tail.
Oddly synchronistic in here that you have an Abraham Lincoln thing on here, and way earlier in the chat, somebody randomly name dropped Abe Lincoln.
Oh wow!
Was it Kevin?
It was Kevin.
I bet it was
so long
Kevin's
ago.
So insanely active in the chat the last few days.
I don't even remember where it was. I just remember it happening. That's so funny to me.
Again, that points to me to choice. So I don't read for anyone who thinks that I'm going to do something for them. I tend to read for people. I don't even like calling myself a teacher or a psychic. I'd like to say more I'm just a reminder. A
clairvoyant.
Yeah, like
Country clairvoyant.
the country clairvoyant. I mean, I still do that, but
Yeah.
because humans like names, right? They like
I know,
titles.
totally.
They want to know who
Yeah.
you are.
They like boxes and
Mhm.
frameworks they can put you in.
and so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do this for as long as necessary. Again, it's just another iteration of what's to come. So yeah. So, and these are just all the different offerings. I get
Wow, cool, man.
lot of-
I love that terminology, the conscious coupling. I fell in love with that a few years ago. I really like that.
yeah.
I like that box.
Yeah, yeah. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay
So,
with it for now.
What kind of person should work with you? Who's your ideal client?
So, I'll tell
Great
you
question.
this: I'll tell you who finds me. The people who find me are usually already entrenched in their spiritual practice in some fashion. A lot of my clients are in therapy as well, potentially. And what I find is they will find me when they hit a hiccup in therapy. Or when they're in their own practice, but they're ready for an upgrade. Because what I seem to be able to do is just simply bring a different perspective, because they get so entrenched in their own narrative. And then what I come in again, they can't see the forest for the trees. And so what I do is I say, okay, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's not even look at it. Let's close your eyes. What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell?
Right.
Let's go into that intuition. This one is actually probably my most besides relationships and intuitive astro, this is probably my most popular one, because this really is the one where, again, seeing the forest for the trees. But it's also I might go back and I change that and say feeling the forest for the trees.
Sure. Yeah, to
is
take
what I
the
might-
sensory
Yeah, I
thing
really
out of
like
it
that.
entirely.
I might go back and do that now that we're talking about it. But but yeah, I feel like that.
I'm sorry, just to clarify here, did you do the graphics for this?
I did 100% everything for this
Dude.
website.
I can't even tell you how much those colors, those hues, like whatever you did with all of it, and the embossing to an extent. I don't know, all of it is so really well done. Like it's very coherent for me, at least.
Well, and if
Really.
you scroll through each picture ombres into the next picture. So that red, if you scroll down, goes into the red in there. See, there's a little bit of red there, then it goes to the red there. The
Yeah,
green
yeah,
goes
yeah.
to the green there. So yeah, so
Yeah,
it was
it
all
was
very
See, man, you know what
consciously
you're doing.
done.
Wow, man.
It's
A little bit
beautiful. It's probably one. I'm not exaggerating. Because like we're on a show and whatever. It's probably one of the most beautiful. I don't know, color schemed and all that I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely put some time into this. If you put
Wow.
as much time into your craft as this website, which it was probably 150,000 times more time into your craft than the website, you're probably pretty good at what you do. Website's a good example of that.
How long have you, Christian? How long have you been doing this for? Or actually, professionally, or really stepped out into making a living out of this, if you will?
So it took me a year before I could pay my, just over a year before I could pay bills, like a lot of bills,
Where
like
your
all my
your
bills, let
income
me say
matched your
that.
expenses.
Yes, and so that happened. So it's been just over 2 years that I've been doing this professionally. But as far as the graphics work and the design work and the artistry, I mean, I've been doing that for over 20 years now. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I see you have little mushrooms on the bottom here.
I
Why?
do.
Yeah. What's that about?
So I haven't tried psychedelics yet, but I think I see I think they're important. I feel like they're important. And I just love mushrooms, period. Like, I just think they're the most amazing thing ever. I don't know why. There's something about them. So
They're pretty damn weird.
yeah,
like,
they are.
Pretty amazing for sure.
They're so remarkable little things. And I love how they just like are random and they're popping up,
Yeah.
And so I wanted random things on my website. And
Like the fly right here.
Exactly. I just wanted, and by the way, I put the snakes down there because something was happening in the editing that if I didn't have a picture at the bottom of each page, it would realign the page every time, and I
wow.
would have to go back and redo everything in the editing.
Yeah.
I would have everything perfect. So I found that if I put something at the bottom of each page, it would help it. So that's why I had to do that.
I think it's
But
a
yeah.
great anchor to have, and it looks pretty balanced, like Abzu
Yeah.
Team Mutt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Seems good.
and it's funny. It's a funny story about intuition. So the dream interpretation, I didn't know if I needed, And I shit you not, the next day I had someone message me on Instagram after I was questioning whether or not to do it. I had already made the graphic, done it, but I was like, do I need to really add this when something was saying to do it?
Yeah.
And I got a reading for it. Someone messaged me and said, will you,
Cool,
I
man.
need help interpreting a dream. So I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of dream interpretation for people myself too, and it's
Yay.
definitely something I find they get like a whole lot of benefit from if they're able to remember a decent amount of specifics from the dream. You can really dig
Yeah.
into a lot of shit in one dream.
Yeah, it's amazing what people carry, and they really carry their own key and their own doorways. You know, they really have all the pieces, and the dreams just show you that. They just, yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah. So I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please continue.
Well, I wanted to say that even if you're not like ensconced in your spiritual practice, I get people who maybe have never had readings before, but they're still. It's funny how they just innately get it. You know, they still understand things and they have it, and they're like, well, something just said. You know, they're like jokingly, of course, based on my thing. They're like, I'm a virgin when it comes to this. You know, they're like, you're gonna pop my reading cherry, and I'm like, yay.
Totally. I know that
Well,
feeling.
Right. Well, because as you probably experienced, there's a lot of people out there that, if you want to call them false prophets, or people that are in it for themselves or things like that, you know. And yeah, I want to support myself doing this, but one of my primary prayers, I'll say this, is just I want to be a vessel of truth. Make me a vessel of truth. You know, so when I do readings, I don't want any of my stuff to get in the way at all. You know, my stuff is my stuff, and it doesn't need to be here. So,
yeah, totally.
And I added my art because, again, showing all my pieces. You know, I'm just showing all the pieces because something said to do it. So
yeah, that's beautiful, man. It's cool to have, like, I mean, we have the YouTube channel now to express ourselves in different avenues, like different shows. Like, we did a scuffed version of Hamlet the other night. We spent like 2.5 hours going through the first 2 acts of Hamlet. When we had like 5 different viewers on screen with us. We had like 5 or 6 cameras pulled in, all reading off the script and just improvising and, like, you know, just doing crazy shit, man. But like, it's kind of an artistic expression because we're doing this every night, so it's just there. So it's cool. You have a website of different dynamics that also can provide an income, but you're really putting your life and your multidisciplinary expressions.
These are drawings you've done?
They're from found photographs.
Wow,
dude, you are incredible.
So this is
kidding.
what I'm known for in the art world. This is what's in museums and collections across the world.
This is crazy good.
how many lifetimes have you lived already?
I told
Dude, you're turning into a Walter Russell, man. You need to keep at it. If you live to Walter Russell's age, people are gonna be like, "This guy lived as many lifetimes as Walter Russell in one lifetime."
Yeah.
He's got other ones on here. We're not even done yet.
So I'll tell
like,
you,
crazy.
Saint Germain is someone who's with me. So I'm pretty sure I'm like some incarnation of Saint Germain or something.
This is a drawing?
You drew that?
Yes, absolutely.
This looks like a photograph, my dude.
They're supposed to.
They do
So,
a good
yes, I
job.
did very
That's
well, didn't I?
crazy.
Yes, you did, sir.
So I got really obsessed with found photos, and I probably have a weird factor. And this one I feel like is really good for Corona.
No doubt.
Yeah, right.
Have you made memes out of your drawings yet?
I have not. I was thinking
Ooh,
of
that'd
making a
be
meme out of
interesting.
this one.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
But
Yeah.
I was at antique stores, and you know, again, my background is in photography and the art. So I was like, well, no one's drawing these things. I'm going to draw them. And so you can go so I'll design these boxes, and then you can go through the boxes like you're at the antique store or the flea market, and they're all drawings. And if you go to installations, you can see some of them installed in people's houses. Under Visions. It's Under Visions. Yeah. And then, so if you scroll down, that's one of my shows. That's the show called Alchemy that I did years ago. And that's one of the drawings.
Here we go.
Yeah, so there we go. There's one of the boxes. Well, it should let you enlarge it. Go up to the
Pictures, maybe?
yeah, there you go.
So
Yeah.
that was a box you put together of the different drawings that look
Yeah,
like
but
photos.
if you go to the
It's amazing.
yeah, if you keep going to the yeah, you can see more installations with them.
Wow.
There's more. Yeah, so that one
I gotcha.
was my
Wow,
first
man.
show of them. Yeah, so this is
These are all these people being like, "What? These are drawings?"
yeah.
Like that's what every single person
Yeah,
in this
all of
picture is
them, for
thinking
sure.
right now. Wait a minute.
So I'll tell you
No.
something kind of sad about it is that I can't do them really anymore because my eyesight is I used to be able to get really close, and now like I can't, like this is as close as I can get to him, and it's hard to do them now. So
Okay, random
Wow.
fact, random Earth alchemy, human body fact, potentially.
Yeah.
Now, the source of the fact is Don Tolman, so if I'm butchering it, he'd be the reference on YouTube or online or something. He's got a lot of good
Okay.
material.
I'll
Studying
write it
ancient
down.
tribes and their habits and techniques and food and all that stuff. And I think it's something like, if you eat a carrot at sunrise or sunset, your body is like 10,000 times more absorbent of the vitamin K or something that actually helps heal your eyes. If you do it while outside, like sun gazing at the time you can actually look towards the sun, what's not harmful, and eating a carrot or some stuff like that. There's like dynamics that people don't realize of like eating certain foods at certain times of certain colors. Like it actually allows your body to process it. Instead of having to eat 10,000 carrots, you eat 10 carrots 10 days in a row at sunset or things like that. So just I'll throw that out there.
Okay, I'm ready to try everything.
Yeah, Don Tolman, good stuff.
Okay, let me I forgot his name, Don Tolman.
Yeah.
I believe in that stuff.
Well, I know you're doing it, man, with the flower infusion stuff for sure.
So I'm looking through your website here, and perhaps my last question for the show: can you tell us
Yeah.
about the one thing that you do not do?
Yeah, is there? Where's that? What do you not do yet?
Well, what's next after a book and building huge social media platforms and becoming a clairvoyant with antlers and
From the country.
and then becoming a fairy blacksmith?
Yeah.
What's next in your life? Like, do you have your eyes on a
Please tell us,
horizon like
sir.
that?
Enlighten us. I'm quite curious what could come next.
So I've ordered a lyre.
Cool.
And I'm gonna learn to play the lyre because I want to use it in my meditations, and I found that the
Cool.
lyre can help, like a singing bowl, can move you into a theta state. These are when I designed textiles, I did that for 6 years. So
Back in my day when I used to design
Oh my God, I
textiles.
know. How many lifetimes have you lived? What the fuck, man? You're an incredible human being. Look at you.
you guys,
Well done, sir. So again,
Thank
tell us
you.
what now? Forging fairies. Like, okay, what's next here? Hold on, I'm really
Okay,
excited for
man.
this.
Okay.
I've always wanted to. So I used to sing.
I'm like honestly
Lyres.
just
So hold
afraid
on,
to
hold on.
look at the
He's getting-
sculpture
he's
one.
getting into the light. Yeah, oh my gosh. We can't even look at sculptures yet. Let him talk about lyres. Please tell us. Talk about lyres.
So I want to. I don't know. I want to record an album. I have my eye on
Cool.
the farm. I want
Like
an actual
instrumental or
farm.
singing, too?
Yeah, both. I want to
Cool.
do both. I think, and I have my eye on a farm. I want to live sustainably. I bought my first solar
Yeah.
panel and power bank recently.
Cool.
It's just small, nothing big to like do
Sure.
like your phone and your iPad
Mhm.
and stuff. But I figured I
And
would
transitioning over to
practice.
that lifestyle for sure.
Yeah. So I've been so it's not over yet, but I still haven't. By the way, I use the word master to mean mature. Essentially, when we
Oh,
master
okay.
something, we've matured into it. So it's not
Sure.
something that we like lack. We move into the maturity of it. So I
Yeah.
haven't I haven't mastered the writing yet. I feel like I haven't mastered this teaching yet either. I haven't mastered these things. Like I like doing it, but the teaching
You
is in the
mastered
living.
website design, sir. We can say you can safely move on from that, be satiated with your life review at the end of this life.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I made an agreement.
Was this bird dead, or what is up with this?
It was. We found the bird. One of the birds. There were a couple bird parts in there.
Wow.
During
Good for you for that type of photography. That's interesting.
So I used to teach autistic children,
Wow.
and so these were two of my students with one of their brothers. So so that was done very early on. I was 21 when I started that series, maybe. So yeah, so that was, and I did 10 types. So I printed them on aluminum and ambrotypes on glass.
I
So
I just noticed a typo on your webpage. You could take a
is
note.
it?
Listened.
I listened
Oh.
and became intuitive.
Maybe that's intentional.
Page.
Listened, illuminated, listened,
Well,
it became.
you know, I had friends go through it, and I was like, "Please tell me." So I'm glad we found it. I'm still finding
that
them
happens, man. I've had 2 or 3
periodically.
different people edit, and like then later I still find something. It's like weird how the brain misses certain common
Well, and
things.
I saw one in the drawings too. I'll have to go back and do. You know, it's a living creature. You know,
Yeah.
like everything we do. So I used to get really frustrated with those things, and now I'm like, whatever. Like I said, I have to
Yeah.
really have to
With the
perfect
picture
everything I
next
do.
to it, no one's ever going to be like, oh, screw this website. That guy has a typo. Like, no way. There's no
Yeah.
way.
You
Yeah,
see
but I get
where
what
I'm
you're saying.
coming from, though, of how like hard I am on myself sometimes. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I get it. You like it to be really good.
yeah. So, but
so,
but
Liars
thank you,
and an
guys.
instrumental and vocal album in the
Yeah.
future from Christian Bradley West at Country Clairvoyant.
and a farm. And a farm.
And
a
Make
farm,
that's right,
More flower
self-sustaining.
essences. Yeah. So yeah, there's but this is definitely where I'm going to be for a few years. You know,
Cool.
I feel like I don't see myself going anywhere for a while. You know, get the books
Yeah.
published first. That's really my primary
Yeah,
goal
man.
right now, is to keep doing the readings, keep you know, keep writing, and yeah. But you guys will definitely be updated, as of course, on whatever happens, obviously.
Right
So,
on.
Well, you seem to have about 3 million skills. We would love to have you back on the show at some point in time to talk about the other 3
aspect
million
of the
skills that you
million
have.
lifetimes you've already integrated. Let's go down that avenue.
Well,
well, you know, and so this is my philosophy, guys. We'll end here. Do everything on purpose, because when you bring your consciousness and your purpose into everything, then you can do everything well. You don't have to, because you're doing it. It's already perfect.
Your purpose is found in being present where you are perfect.
Yeah, that's it. And
Boom,
giving your
tagline.
full attention here and now. Bring your full attention into here and now. Your attention is a gift. And so, if I can sum up what I do in life, it's do everything on purpose. Now, does that mean that sometimes I don't, or I'm still motivated by conditioning or things like that? Absolutely. But I do my best to be on purpose at every moment.
I think that's an exceptional philosophy. As long as we're really doing it, we can't be going that wrong.
No. and if everyone in the world was living on purpose, we'd have a pretty remarkable world. We already have a remarkable world, but it would upgrade into that, what everyone calls the new Earth. You know?
Yeah. The 5D New Earth split that's been 25 years coming.
Right.
The events happen tomorrow,
Right.
bro.
Yeah.
Inside
what
of
people
you.
don't realize is, yes, exactly. You
Right.
said it before I could say it. I love.
We're on
you.
agreement, man. Coherence.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because we're already on the New Earth.
It's in me.
This
It's in me.
podcast live from the New Earth. Christian, where can people find you?
Exactly.
Where should they look for you? Are you taking clients and
So-
stuff still?
I'm always available for readings and clients. Always. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So you can find me on Instagram, The Country Clairvoyant. You can find me here on the website that you guys are showing for me.
That's
I've got a-
thecountryclairvoyant.com. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the chat right now in case you want to check that out.
I have a Facebook page. I'm honestly not very active on it. I'm far more active on Instagram, and I just feed everything to Facebook. Facebook isn't my favorite. There's too much going
Yeah.
on.
I hear that.
Instagram is like streamlined, and then eventually, you know, if you're following me on the Country Clairvoyant, then you'll see everything else I'm doing, because I'll promo the podcast there, and I'll just, that's pretty much my baseline right now. So
Awesome, man.
Wonderful, man. Well, I look forward to seeing many more funny memes
Yeah.
and your 800 other talents that you're already working on emerging to your idea of finished. And we hope to have you back here in the near future.
oh God, guys, it has been
Yeah.
delightful. I just have adored every moment of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Us too.
much.
Thanks.
You are very welcome. We're going to lead out with some music, and it is very, Very good to have you here. Everybody that's here with us tonight, thank you for being here with us tonight. If you're watching in the replay, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure to follow Christian at The Country Clairvoyant. You can see it scrolling across the bottom, or at his website, thecountryclairvoyant.com. Christian, we'll see you again in the future.
Yes.
Keep doing a million different things extremely well. You're doing great.
Agreed.
Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Take care.
You too.
It's 222, by the way.
222.
Oh.
Right on time. 2 hours and 22 minutes of broadcasting.
Boom.
And this is the perfect time to be done. All right, Bradley, we love you. We'll see you again in the future.
Take care, guys. Good night.
Night. All right, little bit of music for a little bit of a lead out.
Hi,
We
guys.
love all of you. Thank you for, well, he's got 2 names. I got him with both of them. So,
We can take a break and come back, or are we going to go out?
we're probably done for the night.
All
We
right.
got
other
we got
nights
people
coming
around
up.
here and stuff. We like you very much. If you want to hear some music for a little while we lead out, we would love you to
Oh, I don't need
stay
headphones
around.
anymore. It's
If
way
I can
better.
actually put this in the right place.
This is so much better.
There we go. All right.
I'm excited to have my own headset tomorrow. We'll have splitter. Should be way better. It'll be fancy, guys. We'll
Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us again. We'll be back tomorrow. As always, Jen's show will be back tomorrow. If you didn't catch it, we had a Pleiadian Starseed activation
And-
earlier.
That
It was
great.
really cool. We're going to definitely have a replay of that up.
Also tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern is Frank and Paula's show, Fearless. Frank Castle, Fearless. You can find that on YouTube as well. They're on, and he's on the show all the time, and we may interconnect. But that is also tomorrow. Anything else you can think of? Tomorrow
All right,
night.
guys. You have a wonderful night.
Yes.
Keep shining like the sun.
Sun.